All right, let's talk some baseball. We've got National Football League. We've got NHL happening as well. So a ton of things happening. Busy weekend, obviously. Tons to get into. Our first hockey night in Canada weekend. Hockey Toronto was playing. The Canucks were playing. The Canucks are starting off the year pretty well so far. It's looking great. Getting back-to-back wins after not starting the season last year. A little bit frustrating, obviously, and it's not going to be that easy like it is right now for the Canucks. But these huge 2 wins against the Oilers, which you can certainly expect to see the Oilers taking it up a notch. I mean, they're going to be one of those teams that I've got no problem with expecting them to go far this year. I know that you can get off to a rough start, but that's the best part about the NHL is that there's 80 games left. So let's just hold on to our horses here. Let's not lose our minds. Let's just relax. Let's just remember which teams are good. Well, Igor Shesterkin allows 4 goals to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Is he not the best goalie in the league anymore? Or at least one of the best, okay? No. Tampa Bay, once they get Vasilevsky, the real best goaltender in the league, back, okay? Yes. Vasilevsky is still the best, okay? Once they get him back, Tampa will look a lot better. Trust me. It all starts, your goaltender is sometimes like your quarterback, because if you don't have a good one, you don't really know how secure your team is going to be at being able to finish a game, win, and go far, and win a lot. It's just way too early to tell any of these things. Austin Matthews, 6 goals, back-to-back hat tricks to start off the year. Wow, that is quite something. Falling to the Blackhawks on Monday, unfortunately. We didn't see Matthews get a hat trick. And the poor Toronto fans didn't see the Maple Leafs win again, and we didn't see Bedard score. But I'm just going to be applauding whenever the Maple Leafs lose. That's just, it's just nice to see. It's nice to kind of joke around with them, because of all the Canadian media, which seems to be centering itself around the Toronto teams every which way. And now because the Blue Jays are out, and they never seem to be around when the Maple Leafs start, because that's just way too late in October, okay? The Blue Jays can only be around in October 1st and October 2nd, and that's it, okay? And then the Maple Leafs, they come into town, and they just remind everybody in Toronto, all the Blue Jays fans, hey, remember us? Remember you love us, okay? Remember, let's just get back down to earth here, okay? This is Canada, okay? This isn't Venezuela, okay? This isn't the Dominican. This isn't Haiti. This is Canada, and this is what we're good at, all right? Forget about baseball. Just remember us, okay? Remember us, Maple Leafs. Love us. But it's fun to kind of see them. I don't know. The year's going to go by quickly. So let's just not have the expectations too high. Like I was saying, we don't know how good every single team's going to be. We're watching that. We're watching all the teams that have a lot of expectations. Obviously, Vegas. I don't know, man. Looks like they might just go back-to-back because they are that good, and they didn't have as much of a turnover. They didn't have any changes. And the better you get, the less success you're going to have because you can't be sustainably excellent for as long as possible. We see that in certain dynasties, like when Chicago, they won 3 cups, Penguins won 3 cups, Tampa won 2, 3 straight finals. Those are kind of the dynasties that we've been seeing more recently. And a lot of it can just come from a fully well-rounded, fleshed-out team. We're not going to be seeing it if all you have, Mr. Connor McDavid and Mr. Leon Draisaitl, if all that you have is just 2 excellently skilled players whose positions aren't that far off, especially since they're not being even playing together, except on the power play. Your team is not going to be complete because this isn't basketball. But what we've seen with these dynasties over the years is we've seen completeness, we've seen goaltending, and we've seen the grittiness and almost the commitment, the loyalty to my team. I'm going to stick by them, and we're going to find a way to get through this, and we're going to win. We're going to keep going, even though we've been failing a bunch. So whoever wins, that's the story for Vegas. That's the story for Colorado 2 years ago. That was the story for Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay was a team that choked, and they choked a lot. Okay? No one knew if they were ever going to win. In 2019, I said, this team has to win in the next 3 years because we're going to lose everybody. And what ended up happening is, yes, they did win, but instead of keeping like the whole team together, they just decided to prioritize the core. And that is the best thing that you can do, especially when you have guys that have won and you're like, you guys, you can come back here. We can keep going. We can keep this going. We can win as much as we can together, especially when you have a bunch of Hall of Famers in their prime. And that's exactly what happened with Tampa. And that's exactly what should be happening with the Maple Leafs and the Oilers. And we're seeing this with Vegas. We saw this with Colorado 2 years ago. And eventually it's going to transpire, and the best team is going to win. That's just the outcome. So, with that said, we'll be watching closely to the Canucks. Obviously very exciting. Local team. Got to support the locals. And the Oilers, last year I thought had to be their year. And it wasn't their year. It wasn't Boston's year either. And then Pittsburgh looks like this year anyway. They might want to try one more crack at it. Why not? They still have a lot of potential. Older guys, no problem, okay? I think they can get it done. They've got all the pieces that they need. But on the other side of things, in the baseball world, I mean, for crying out loud, I haven't really gotten around to it. But it is really insane that now Texas has won 2 games. Philly beating up on Arizona. Can we please get Philly in Texas? I know Houston is born and bred and built. You give Jordan one more at-bat, and he's going to smoke you. He's going to take care of business. And he did on every occasion that he can possibly be given. So don't give him that. And Texas, if you are going to keep this up, you have to remember who you're playing, especially when you return back to Arlington. I don't know, man. Houston fans are going to still be crawling up and down that place like an anthill, and they are going to be taking over. They are going to be pressuring you. And Houston plays excellent on the road. How they play at home is not indicative of the team that they are. Of course, when they have huge victories and they demolish you, like they just did. Yeah, it's not looking good when you're down 2-0, of course, to Texas. Who would have thought? And now Scherzer is starting Game 3. What are they going to have? Urquidy? Urquidy played in Game 3 against the Twins, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go half Urquidy, half Javier, and maybe throw in a little sprinkle of Hunter Brown in there, but maybe they want Javier to play Game 4. I saw France, they threw him in because Framber only lasted 3 innings, which sucks because I still think if the guy's pitch count is low enough, I think you can still manage to stretch him out. Obviously, it was just that first inning he was banged up. Allowed the subsequent home run to Jonah Heim later in the third. But I suppose they just thought, okay, it's still early, and that's the best thing that we can do. J.P. France has been dynamite all year. Obviously, we haven't even been seeing him because Houston hasn't even needed to play that much. They've only played 6 games so far this postseason, and Jordan has 6 home runs. It's pretty funny how he just rifled that second one over Aroldis. And then they were just complimenting Tucker and Jordan how they're so good against lefty hitters. And then Jordan hits a bomb on the first pitch off Chapman. That was, wow. Where is Will Smith? I don't get it. He was the closer. Didn't he have 20 saves for Texas this year? And Jose Leclerc was struggling in that 8th inning when they brought him in. He threw 9 straight walks, or 9 straight balls to 2 walks, and then they managed to get out of it with Chaz, who's an underrated hitter. I mean, my goodness. If you pinch hit for Dubon, that's not that great either, because that guy also can rifle some shots. Oppo, whatever you need him to do, run, play center. That guy is he's like Chaz. He's like small Chaz, and both of them had great seasons, anyways. So, and then on the other side of things, I mean, yeah, Arizona, it's a great story. Everybody would love it if you guys were able to beat up on the Phillies. But the Phillies are just rolling because they have been playing enough when they can get into a rhythm. Castellanos is looking like prime Castellanos from a couple of years ago when he hit over 30 dingers. And then Bryce is turning an MVP, Harper from a couple of years ago. And Schwarber finally gets on the board after having a career-high 47 home runs this past season. So I don't know exactly how Arizona's going to spin this, because they just have their ace now getting lit up. And they've got Merrill Kelly and Fod. And I don't know who else. They could throw in Nelson. They could throw in, oh boy, I don't even know who's left. It's going to be a bullpen day, that's for sure. But one of these matchups, it's best of 7, and that's going to stretch them out, man. It's going to Philadelphia can definitely do it. They can get through it. We'll see Taijuan Walker. We'll see Ranger, obviously, again. I wouldn't be surprised if Lorenzen maybe comes in like a 2nd or 3rd inning and cleans up about 5 or 4 innings himself. Not to mention Strom. Oh, man. Strom against the Braves to clamp up that save on the weekend. Unbelievable. Arizona, man. I mean, Atlanta. It's hard to believe that a team that could be so dominant in the regular season just doesn't show up one bit, one iota, disappeared, just like the Dodgers. And that's what we got. We got Matt Olson, invisible. Acuna, probably at 50%. Acuna. I didn't even know Albies was playing. Riley played pretty well. And Harris, obviously, that one great defensive play in Game 2. But he had been coming along offensively, and they needed that. They needed every ounce of that. Sean Murphy, invisible. And the Phillies, they just rake. They just plummet you. And Wheeler and Nola are perfectly set up here for every ounce of momentum that they've been able to garner is being manifested. And we're seeing it, Wheeler's performance against Arizona in Game 1. And that's exactly what's happening. And then, of course, the last thing we're going to talk about, of course, everybody wants to know, are the 49ers look like they've come back down to earth. They're not invincible anymore. Same with the Eagles. So we're down to a few 5-1 teams. 5 to be exact. Kansas City, Miami, Detroit. Detroit is up in there. Detroit after beating the Chiefs, and the Chiefs after losing to Detroit, and Detroit after losing to Seattle in Week 2, all at 5-1. And then, of course, the Eagles and the 49ers. Oh, yeah. That was quite the weekend. Not seeing a whole lot of offense, a whole lot of close games. Not even like games worth tuning into, I feel like. But I'm not worried about this at all. I've been saying it. Jalen Hurts, I would still rather have Jalen Hurts than Brock Purdy. And that's the difference. That's the main difference that it comes down to. If we're looking at the 49ers and the Eagles, I'm still taking the Eagles over the 49ers. Because the Eagles' offense, I would rather have than the 49ers' offense. Because I would rather have Jalen Hurts than Brock Purdy. And I would rather have the Eagles' offensive line than the 49ers' offensive line. Of course, I would rather have McCaffrey and Kittle than DeAndre Swift and Dallas Goedert, but I would rather have Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown than Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. And we can get those things are trivial, like the wide receivers and the running backs, the offensive line. None of this really even matters. To me, it just comes down to it. Yes, like the Eagles defense, it did not look as good as it did last year. And the 49ers defense looks a lot better right now than it did last year. But to me, I'm not trusting Brock Purdy. I'm not trusting his arm. Jalen Hurts, yes. Jalen Hurts' ability to make a play, to show up in big moments, to launch it downfield if need be, to scramble and create something out of nothing. That is the guy I'm going to take, okay? And that is the unfortunate part about all this, is because we were robbed of it last year, because Brock couldn't throw. And even now, he still can't really throw darts downfield, big plays. I'm not hating him because McCaffrey and Deebo were out yesterday. I don't think that is a big enough reason to say that Brock Purdy. I have absolute faith that the 49ers are going to bounce back and they're going to be fine even without McCaffrey, even without Deebo. You still have a lot of exceptional receivers. You still have Jordan Mason and Elijah Mitchell in the backfield. You still have enough, okay? I'm not concerned about that. You would be if McCaffrey and Deebo missed significant time, but Deebo's kind of been invisible, let's be honest, this whole season, okay? Last year, he hardly had, 600 receiving yards? And the year before, he had 14 with half of Garoppolo, half of Lance, no Purdy. So it's not those defeats. It's just, okay, well, they're not going to have a perfect season. So what's the big deal? Okay, so they're 5-1. They're still an excellent team. And Buffalo. I think that the Bills are fine. I'm not worried about the Bills at all. They're going to find a way to take care of business in big games. And I know that they should have lost to the Giants. But we cannot say what would happen if the Giants did get that touchdown at the end of the second quarter. I think Buffalo would have changed how they played a little bit, how they approached it. You don't exactly know. It's hard to tell when you're playing a team that has their backup quarterback, has a lot of options missing on the offensive line, who have been struggling all year, 1-4 coming in. So that obviously changed a whole lot. It's not like they were getting destroyed. If you were down 13-0 at the half, I would expect the Bills to fight back a whole lot more than they did, and that's just, they didn't need to. Also, probably a pretty awful week to prepare with just coming back from London. That's I'm not even going to talk about that. That's just kind of been a pain for a lot of teams, except the teams that are winning. So, anyhow, a lot of exciting stuff, and we're going to get into it. Obviously, Week 7 is approaching, which is ridiculous. It's nuts. We're already there in the NFL.